doing my practice in Germany since 21 years as an ENT doctor. I was raised up in Romania. That's why I also speak some Romanian and other languages. But what I learned in my practice in those 21 years that I share with you. You have a lot of learning while you are in medical school, but what really matters, you learn only when you practice things. Yeah, when you do things, then you learn them. And so when I was starting my practice, I was challenged by my patients by the question, why do we get sick? And why do I have this ring in the ear? Why do I have this and that? And I had some answers, but not real answers. And so I was challenged to find the right answer, to know what really was doing the things in the human body. And for this, I was challenged to study the human being. And I came to a very fundamental understanding, so to say, about ourselves. So let's start with the body's language. Now, when people speak about body's language, they might think about how you gesticulate or so. That's also a language, but that's not a medical language that we perceive from our body. Our body communicates to us and gives us signals when things are missing, or when something is too much, or when something was injuring the human body. So those are symptoms, they're all negative, so that you are aware that something you need to do about it. The body never speaks or is silent when all his needs are satisfied. So when we are feeling good, that's the normal state to be. But when he speaks to us by intention. So as a physician, you have to have a clear reference how you orient yourself. And when the body is speaking, he never can lie unto you, because he is just a physical element that does something on command. He can never give signals by chance or by accident. I hope that is clear for everyone. That's why we want to see a few messages of our body that we can easily discern and see if we learned that in school or it was just given to us. So when we feel hunger, do we know that what we lack? Yes, so we lack food. When we are thirsty, we know that we are lacking water. When we are tired, we are lacking sleep. When we are shortness of breath, we lack oxygen. When we're freezing, we lack of warmth. And when we are sweating, then we have too much heat. So, do we all understand this language? It's the same in every human being? Yes? You can go wherever in the world, you will have always the same language of the body, because we are all one species. So those are things that no one does not understand correct. But let's hypothetically think an idea, and this is the first thing that I would challenge you to think. Imagine what would happen. Unfortunately, I cannot show because it's a screen. Imagine what would happen if you would, one of these messages, you would misunderstand or getting confused about it. Imagine you have hunger and you understand, I need sleep. What would happen with you? You will die. So the not understanding the exact message of the body will lead to death. That's by no way. Sooner or later, you die because you cannot understand what the body lacks and what you have to supply. And this is exactly the case when it comes through disease. Disease is the strongest message of the body. If it's inflammation, cancer, diabetes, osteoporosis, pain, whatever it is, we have no idea what the body misses. And this is why people die on disease. They don't die for hunger. They don't die for freezing. Yeah? People die today, and mostly between 40 and 60 years, because they don't understand when they get sick what the body tells them. Is that a tragedy? And I was a physician. I had my patients. They told me their body symptoms. I could give them a name because we learn to give names to every symptom. Yeah, you call them John and the other is Elias or whatever they are, you know. That's names. And we are very happy when we have a diagnosis. We say, we gave him a name. But if you gave them a name and you don't know who's his parent, how can you solve the problem? And so I had no idea. What is disease telling you? Do you have the idea? Do you know what you lack when your body gets painful, when you have inflammation, when you have a knees issue, or whatever issue you have? Do you know what your body tells you? He speaks, correct? He speaks, but you run to the doctor and you want to know from the doctor what the body tells. And the doctor knows it or does not know it? No, the doctor, well, he can name your symptom when you tell it to him, but he does not know where it comes from. And this is, I think, the greatest problem that we have in our human life, that we cannot understand the very plain message of the body. And the signals of the body must be intentional, if not, we die. And this is why we die on disease. And most people, you know, die on cancer between 40 and 60 years. It's amazing that we don't understand when the first symptoms arise, what happens. I had a patient, she got breast cancer on the right breast. And before she got the breast cancer for 13 years, she had knee issues, knee pain on her right knee. So she went to the doctor often to take care for her knee, and then after 30 years came the cancer. Now, understanding the message of the body, if we would understand the first symptom, what it tells us, we would supply the need, and what would happen with the cancer? It would never appear. Because the more needy you become, the stronger must the signal be to get and understand it. But the signal is intentional. And if you would already get the attention, oh, I have something here, my body talks to me, he tells me this and this is missing, I should supply that need, and then he would give peace. So that's where we are, and that's what we have to understand. And imagine the most clear signs that are visible and also being feelable. Is that an English name? It also can be felt. Those things, we have no idea where they're coming from and what the body wants to tell us. It's the most clear message. And we just stay there and say, we don't know. And imagine now, if you're not a professional in medicine, then you can say, okay, I don't know, but I learned it. I was in school, I was in the hospital doing residency. I learned a lot of things. And now you're a supposed professional and you don't understand what the body tells you. And I couldn't stand to be like that. And so I had to find it out, because there must be a clear understanding as a physician. The patient comes to you and says, I have this and this and this, that you can immediately know that this is his problem and this needs to be supplied. Simple. Do we fight hunger? By tablets? By medication? How do we fight hunger? we supply the need. So what do we do in medicine? We fight the disease without supplying the need. So who will win? Yeah, of course, because the needs of the body that he expresses through disease cannot be neglected or cannot be let aside. It must be satisfied. And that's why the body insists. We will lose the battle against him by just fighting a symptom, doing surgery here and cutting out that and doing the other and having all kinds of medication. But in the end, not understanding what he says to us, not understanding what his need is really, we will lose the battle. And I believe this is a great tragedy for physicians and also for humanity itself. Imagine, would you ever go to a car repairer that does not know how the car works? Would you? No, but you go to the doctor. And you believe he knows, but he is just like you. He just knows a little bit more about symptoms and what prescription he should do, but he does not know what the body tells you should supply. So you run a battle to put back the hunger without eating. That's not smart, is it? Yeah, it's not smart to fight the body symptoms without knowing what was there. So what do we need to know to find it out? What did I do? I had to find out the nature of man. I had to find out how this being functioning. And you would suppose that you learned that in school. But I had no idea about how the human being is put together, how his nature is, and especially the laws that governs the life. Because you cannot have a symptom without a law behind it. There must be a clear. And those two things brought me further. But how did I do it? So man, the unknown being. So we don't know ourselves, the doctor doesn't know ourselves. So how can we ever become healthy and free? So how did I come to know the human being that I did not know? I made it very simple. I took the patient and I put his age there down, and then I took all his physical symptoms. And these physical symptoms, we have learned how to put them in a time. So you put headaches, when did they appear? You put that in the timeline 3 years ago or 10 years ago. And then neck tension since 5 years, or whatever the patient told me, I put it in time, because you need to know when things appear. Yeah? So that you can orient where you have to go. The ringing in the ear, when does that appear? And the dizziness, yes, since when it happens. Then the surgical interventions, tonsils, appendix, gallbladder. Most people have taken them out, at least in the former years it was so. And then, of course, if you're a woman, if you have children, if you have deliveries, miscarriages, and all kinds of other things that are all physical. So you take that and you put that in a timeline. And then what I did on the other side is I took the mental history, because about this we didn't learn. We didn't learn to ask the people what they went through in their life. So we start with relationships. First relationship that we have is with the parents. So how do the parents behave to each other? How do they work? You put them there, and then you find out when they got married or when they divorced and how their relationship was doing and so on. Then I ask the people about their relationship with their mother, and then you have also their times when you stop having a relationship with your mom and then you continue again. You have all those events, you put them down in time, then with father, spouse, and children, then special events like marriage, divorce, death of loved ones, and those you also see when they took place, when did they do it, and then you have employment condition, if someone has no employment or yes, is having issues at his work, and on also special events like traumas, abuses, and all those things I put on the other side in timelines to the physical symptoms. Now you see, the mental history is something that you have just in your thoughts. The physical symptom is objective. I mean, it's there. You cannot deny it. You feel it. It's visible in some cases. And now, doing this with a few patients when I started, and now in meantime I have done it with tens of thousands. I don't know how many thousands of patients I have seen, and I did this in my practice, and also when I go and do counseling, when I travel. What did I observe? What would every one of us observe if we would pay attention? I just put the question to see if you understand what I want to say. So what did I observe? Where is the cause and where is the effect? So I came to understand that the mental history here, I cannot only side it on this side, and this is just the effect of it. And that was very, very surprising for me, because we didn't learn that these kinds of an event, yes, can make your physical disease. Yeah, it's just, now we learn psychosomatic. The idea of psychosomatic is when you find some symptoms, but you don't find a physical correlation. And then you say it's psychosomatic. Now they changed on that as well a little bit when you have a morbus Crohn or an inflammation or an autoimmune disease. They might come up and say, well, that's also psychosomatic. But it's very, very unspecific. But when I saw this, I said, okay, how can it be that the thought can make your cancer? So this lady, you want to know his history? 13 years ago, when the right knee started, her mother passed away. And she was mourning over 13 years. And after 13 years, her breast cancer appeared from the same way of thinking. Now, seeing that in many cases, it took me 2.5 years to believe it. I mean, to see that is so. Because when you go to normal school, you want to prove things. And you learn to have, objective provements. But how can you prove thoughts? Can you? So when I went home in those first years, we had our own teenagers. They were 14, 16, and 18. We raised 6 foster children. And I told them the stories that I heard during the day. I said, look, that patient got an ear infection because a day before the husband was urgently brought to the hospital. And then I said, the other got the paralysis of the vocal cord because she found out that the husband was cheating on her. And then you find all these things out and you share those things with your children, and how do they react? Do they just say, oh, what a smart doctor you are? No, they say, how will you prove it? How will you prove it? Because everyone has problems. How will you prove that exactly those events, the way they were thinking, brought up that body symptom? And so I was challenged with their laughing about me. I just, not long ago, a few months ago, I was in a school doing meetings, and I shared with the teachers that kidney stones come from thinking. How did they react? They were laughing. Yes, it just doesn't make sense to us because we lost sight of the most important thing that we do in life, that is thinking. So, my children, how can you prove your observation to be true? And observation is something you see it, another see it, and you come to a different conclusion. So that's why the observation must be objective. I had to have a measure by which I can prove exactly why that event makes you sick, why it brings you a heart attack, or why it brings you a sudden hearing loss, or whatever it is. You must prove it, how it works. So I was challenged to go about it. And so I started again with simple approach, because simplicity is sometimes the best thing, you know that? So I came to understand in my talking to the people that something in their life was missing, and I had to find out what was it that was missing. So here we are. We have basic needs, do we? Do we need oxygen? Yes. We need water? Yes. We need food? Yes. We need sleep? Sometimes at least. Then we need sunshine. Happy to have it now and then. And then we need also warmth, because we were made to be at 37 degrees. Now, if you look to all these absolute needs, how many of you make you happy? Well, all of them give you a certain satisfaction, because everything we do were made to be nice. I like to eat a good fruit, the sunshine. What makes you happy? Is this all you need that makes your life to just be okay? I didn't find in my patients that they were lacking one of these things. They were mostly good fed. There was nothing I could find out. But what did I find out? Is that they had an issue. What do we as humans treasure most? What brings us the greatest joy? What brings fulfillment and purpose in your life? And that is not anything else, it is relationships. And there is nothing higher than relationships. But are relationships by accident or by a need? Do we have relationships because we want to or we have to? We want to or have to? Well, both. Did anyone choose his mother? So you have to. You cannot live without relationship from the moment of conception until you close your eyes or you give your last breath. You live in relationships. Because there is a need that is fulfilled only in relationships. And what is that need? Love. Love. Now imagine, did we ever learn anything about love in medicine? Do you go to the doctor and he says, oh, you need much love? You go to the doctor with this? No, we're laughing because it is the most amazing thing or the most strange thing that the most important thing in the human life does not find its attention in medicine, but not even in church. Yeah, we all have ideas and certain things, but love, good relationships is missing. In all my conversations that I have with all my patients, I didn't find another issue except relationships. And which is most important relationship, which makes us the most to be in trouble? It's mother relationship, yes. Because mother relationship is the first one, it's the strongest one, and we'll see how that works, because it's a subconscious one and also then becomes conscious. But we cannot live without relationships, and relationships are making our lives. And if we don't know how to do in relationships, we are destroying our own body, not thinking about it. Since we are for so many years ignorant of the way we think and about our relationships and do not relate them to health, we cannot find out what's missing. So I came to understand that the humans have more needs than physical needs. So that's why I call it the law of life, because those two lines are the conditions of life. So life is conditioned by our needs. All needs fulfilled, we have normal function and 100% health, because that's how the law is working. It's normal function, 100% health. Now, when we are outside of the lines, we can go at too much or too less, then we have dysfunction in our body. And if we don't understand in this tolerance time what misses, then we enter death, because the two blue lines, the external lines, they just show the tolerance when you go beyond that. Yeah? So you feel hunger, but you don't do anything about it. And if you don't give food at the right time, then you might end up in death. Yeah? So, how many needs do we have? We all know that we need oxygen, water, and warmth. And when we are at the exits of the normal law, so when we are a little bit behind that normal situation, the body starts reacting. Inside, it's all fine. There's no reaction of the body. And he needs to react to make you aware that something is wrong, something is missing. And here, on the one side, we have the freezing, when we have too less of temperature, and then we have the sweating, where we have too much of it. So we understand the body's language, and do we starve for long, or do we go to eat something? We go and eat, and we go and undress or dress. So we do something about it. And now, didn't find any in my patients, no missing of those physical things, but finding the missing of the spiritual things, like love, righteousness, liberty, security, worries of people, making them a lot of body symptoms. But these are just thoughts. They have they're not tangible. I mean, they're not, how can I say, you cannot put them in a box and say, this is love, or this is righteousness or security. It's just a thing that you have in your own mind. It's just in thoughts. And now, on the thoughts level, we have no limit on the side, because the spiritual things can either be 100% or 0. You cannot have half love, you cannot have half security, or 99% liberty. 99% liberty is still prison, yeah, because it must be always 100%. So that's a little bit different on the physical with the spiritual. But how many body reactions do we get from not being fulfilled in our relationships? It is disease in all its forms. So disease, I came to the conclusion, and you have to check it in your life as well. No matter where it appears, no matter what is the location. It just shows you one thing. You lack love. Now, is that easy to transmit to the people? At the beginning, in my first years, we are 4 doctors, 4 ENT doctors, in our city. And so when one is in vacation, then he transfers that his patient that have urgencies to go to the other one to get consulted. And so at the beginning, we exchanged our times when we have vacations. And now the patients of my colleagues came to me while they were on vacation. And of course, I couldn't abstain myself to ask them what kind of a problem they have when their ear was running or was itching or having something to treat. And so they shared with me also some of their experiences. But when they then went back to their doctor and told them how the doctor told me that's a relationship issue that my ear is running, how did my colleagues react to it? Say, what a smart doctor we have. What a smart colleague. No, it was not that, because they said, well, we cannot send you any patients anymore because you confuse them. You say they need love for their skin to function well. So it is the most hardest thing to transmit, that we need, as a first need, love. But I could not change the situation. It was so, and after 2.5 years, I was convinced that the body needs love in order to function well. But I had no idea how it was working. No idea. And so, being challenged, seeing things by my children, by the patient, I came to put a few questions to myself that I had to find out by all means. So relationships are just in our mind. They are not physical. Yes, you have them just in your mind. And it doesn't matter if the person is dead, you have them still alive in your mind. You know that? Because you have their memory from them. And you think on them. And I have one of my major questions that when some relative has passed away, I ask them, how often do you think on your mom? For example, when she's passed away. And it's amazing what people share. Sometimes, all the time. Or, I don't want to remember my mom because she was like she was. But their thoughts, they would never think that this kind of thoughts would make them their disease. So that's why the idea is, how can thoughts cause disease? How do we function in our thoughts? So, what are thoughts? Have you ever thought about what are thoughts? Are they your thoughts or not your thoughts? Do you have foreign thoughts that you don't think, or is your thought your own? Well, we need to understand that thoughts are ours. They are what we think and how we process information. That's our thoughts. Thoughts are processing information. The information comes from outside, but the thought is my inner processing of the information. I see some things, I hear something, I feel something, and so I think about those things. So thoughts are very simple. They are processing of information. And then the question is, where do they come from? Who makes them? Yes, where is the location of your thoughts? so that you understand to know where to look to for the place where they come from. And even more important is, where do they start? That means, where is the entering porch, the entering door of the information? Where is it? Well, we say the eyes and the ears, but that's not where it enters. Because, you see, you can listen to what I say, you hear it, but it has not entered in you. It enters, yes? Well, not really. It doesn't enter. So you see, there is a process that needs to pick up the information and work with it. And when you don't believe it, it does not touch you. Yeah? It just doesn't matter. But if you believe those words, you believe those things, then you get in trouble. Yeah? When there was a patient of mine, she was over 40 years old, and she was very unhappy with her mother because her mother had many abortions, and she also wanted to abort her, but she didn't succeed. She said, my mother was climbing up on high things and jumped down just to get rid of me. But she did not succeed. And now at the age of over 40, she was mad about her mother. And I said, well, why are you not happy? Because she did not succeed. Why did she bother about those things? Why was the information that she took over from her mother so important for her and made her unhappy? Why? Well, what is painful? So that's how we think. And we need to see that who makes the pain to her? Her mother, because she didn't succeed? Only the way she thinks is her problem. And so does she think for herself or against herself? She evidently thinks against herself. And this is what made me, and I got amazed. I said, these people, my patient, they think when they experience an event, instead of they solving the situation, reasonably, they apply it to themselves and they make themselves sick, and before they're sick, they're unhappy. They're not happy because they think something happens there with the others. So where do we start thinking? Yes, is it consciously or subconsciously? What do you think? Your starting of your thoughts, is it consciously or subconsciously? No, it's sub or conscious. Yeah, so that's why, so it's very important to understand that it's a subconscious process. Yeah, when it becomes conscious, we already have evaluated the situation. That's why we have to understand why do I use the words of my mother against me? It's not reasonable, is it? Why should I not say, it's her problem. I don't need her to what? Love me or do the right things. But people are very focused on what others are doing and not doing, while that does not touch them, because what touches them is what they do or not do, what they think. But this is a total subconscious way of looking to things, and when they become conscious, we are not aware that we are against ourselves. I cannot choose my mom, but I need to be able to so relate to her that it does not destroy me. And these are the general things that people experience in their life, in their relationships, just in their minds. And when they hear bad news, then they get into big trouble. So we need to know where our thoughts are starting so that we can trace them back and say, here at the entrance, something was interpreted the wrong way. And then, do we have an idea what thoughts can do? What's the... Yes, but what can thoughts do? Better to say, what can they not do? How many things do you do in your life that are not coming from your thoughts? How many things? Nothing. You are not conscious about that thought necessarily, but there is nothing that happens in this body without your thoughts. It's impossible. And I have this patient, she was a young girl, 19 years old, and she had a lot of symptoms in her body. And the symptoms started 2 years after she went away from her parents and quit the relationship with her parents. And her body had a lot of things, and we explored those, putting the symptom and the history together. And suddenly she was looking to me and said, but not everything can come from your thoughts. What was that answer? So when the patient is somehow convinced that something that happens in his body is done by his own thinking, he needs an escape. Because he says, well, it cannot be just a thought. And I say, okay, what is the alternative? No one hit you. You didn't take any poison. What's the alternative? And if not my own thoughts are making me sick, then how shall I change it? How shall I change it? So it's not an easy thing. And I have in my own family members who are struggling understanding the concept. Because it's so different to say, oh, my own thinking produced me my cancer, produced me my heart attack, my stroke, my bleeding, my nose running, my own thoughts. How easy do you understand it? You just jump out and say, wow, wonderful. Not at all, because we have no, teaching that everything we do with our thoughts. You can look around yourself. There is nothing that is not done through thinking. This church was not built, that piano, was it thought before or not? So thoughts are the most powerful thing in the world, in our lives. There's nothing so powerful than your thought. That's why when you don't know where they come from, and when we were last week, or a little bit more than last week, in New Zealand, and New Zealand, is the highest rate for young people who kill themselves, in the whole world. It's a nice country, New Zealand, but it's number one in suicide. So where do these thoughts come from? Now, understanding that even disease is a suicide, you know that? It's just not the one that you do immediately, yes? It's just in time. So people are their own enemies because they have something in themselves that does not allow them to see the things correctly. So what is the role of the thoughts in health? If everything that happens in our body is the result of my thoughts, subconscious thoughts. We will see, if we have time to go into subconscious and so on, how much there is that, how many decisions we take in 1 second. You know how many decisions you take in 1 second? It's about over 200 decisions in 1 second. So that's a very, very fast way of processing information, because we have all the time are getting with things, associations, and we have to adjust all the time. So I cannot consciously move my hands, yeah, even though I move them, yes, but they are moved by an unconscious or subconscious process. So understanding that thinking is the first thing that you do in life. And everything in your body follows what you decide, consciously and unconsciously. How much should we be taught about how to think? How much? What should be the center of all teaching? What should be? We should start very early in school to teach our children what is right thinking and what is wrong thinking. Now we know and we do moral teaching, but the immorals or they don't get sick. Yeah, those who do those things that we consider evil or bad, they don't get sick. Only the good ones get sick, you know that? Only those who are the victims, they have a process of self-destruction in their own thoughts. And that is amazing, is it? So we have to understand the way we function. I had no idea about thinking because no one teaches you that. While at home, in every school, that should be the case. But why do we not do it? What do you think? Why are we ignorant of the most important thing in our lives? Why are we ignorant of the need of love? I see we have some not so young children here, but too young and or too old. If I ask a 10-year-old boy or girl, what is their first need in life? What is their answer? What do they say? With what do they come up? No, our toy is not at 10 years. They come up with oxygen, with food, with water. They have no idea that they need love. No idea. Well, we will see in the next hours why iPhone is so important. But it's a subconscious way of functioning. So consciously, we are not aware that our first need is love. It's not food. It's not relationships. Are that what determine your life? Determines everyone's life. I mean, many people have found it out, at least. But why did it not get through us, to us, so that we say, okay, we need to do something to understand how we think, because they're just in our minds, our relationship. They're not external. Yeah, they're just there. How can we solve that problem? So I had to put these questions to myself, and after a few years, I also had an answer to them. And this answer is that what I bring in my presentations. I also wrote a little booklet. I brought some with me so that we can understand ourselves. Because if we don't understand ourselves, we have never an idea what to do when we're sick. Yeah, we can do all kinds of treatment, but we will lose the battle if we don't understand what is lacking. And love is a thought. And if that thought has a good information, it feeds the body. And we'll see how that is in our next hour. I think we can make a break here.